The miles and the points game is in e-commerce is unmatched.
Yeah. If you're under $300,000 in ad spend a year, get Amex Gold.
Yep.
If you're, north of $5 million in ad spend a year, probably get the cash back because it's worth so much money. When Klaviyo IPO'd, I was like, this is a huge win for the e-commerce industry. Klaviyo is an institution. It's been around. It feels like one of the backbones of e-commerce alongside Shopify. Once you're on Klaviyo, you know how hard it is to switch your campaigns, audiences, your flows. You know how hard it is to switch a flow? It's fucking so painful.
Yeah.
I don't know any other Shopify app businesses that are as strong as Klaviyo. Smart operators know that actively managing cash flow is a real unlock to increase profits. HighBeam is a banking platform built to help brands do just this.
Learn how HighBeam automatically saves brands thousands of dollars through its high-yield accounts, lines of credit, and cashback cards with a personalized savings estimate at highbeam.co/limited supply. Well, Nick, we're back for another episode. Bunch of stuff to talk about tonight. A bunch of stuff that I've wanted to talk about for a while, actually this whole season or most of the season, but I haven't had a chance to. I'm excited. Yeah, it's going to be really good. There's two main topics today that I want to go through. One is the Klaviyo IPO. Okay. And I did a deep dive into their 10K, into their S1 actually, which is the document they have to file when they're going public, releasing all of their numbers. Right. And I want to go over that with you because I think it's really interesting. And the other is credit card rewards, because I think that the number one holder of credit card rewards in the world as a category must be in e-commerce. It's got everybody in e-commerce is obsessed with credit card rewards, and rightfully so, because these people are spending tens or hundreds or millions of dollars on credit cards in any given month, while everybody else is like, look, I bought, I'm spending $8,000 a month. I'm putting all my personal expenses. I'm going to save up for a trip for Europe with my credit cards. While an e-commerce entrepreneur is like, well, I just spent $350,000 on Facebook ads this month, and so I'm not going to pay for a trip for the next, 3 years forever with my family. I remember when I was at Hint, the founder would open up her JetBlue sometimes, or a JetBlue account. Yeah. And it was just funded with miles. Really? Well, mainly because of credit card points. Yeah. But the miles and the points game is in e-commerce is unmatched. Yeah. I'm surprised that it was JetBlue actually at Hint. Yeah, that was the preferred airline of choice. Oh, that surprises me. Okay, so tell me, what card do you guys use at Charmer Brands? Mainly American Express. Okay. And then we use Parker for long weekend. And why do you use, okay, so let's start with Charmer Brands American Express, actually. Which, American Express has a bunch of cards from a plum to a platinum, a gold, a rose gold. Which one are you using? The platinum and gold. Okay. And why do you use those cards? Why do you use Parker for a long weekend? Well, Parker we use because we get the 45-day float. Charmer Brands we use American Express because I don't know. Actually, there's no real reason we use it. It consolidates at the end of the year really easily, and it looks fancy and it's easy to use. Yeah. All right, reliable. Fancy is a good answer. Yeah. And then give me a rough estimate of spend. Are you guys I'm not sure if you're running Facebook ads and running it on your card, running it on other people's card. What are your business are your business expenses south of $50,000 a month, north of $50,000 a month? How much are you putting on that card? On Amex, probably 50 to 70 every single month. Yeah. That includes because we have a good amount of contractors we pay through card, as well as some international payroll that we pay through the card. Wow. Okay. Yeah. What then you use Gusto? You can't use Gusto to do that. You're using sometimes they'll just invoice us through QuickBooks. Okay. And then for Canada, we use remote.com, which we can also just pay off from the card. Wow. Okay. Gotcha. Amex Gold is a fantastic card to be using. Amex Platinum is generally a terrible card to be using. But I think of this in two different tiers, and for one tier, if your answer is I want to maximize cash back, that's an easy answer because the answer is the most dollars cash back from a percentage of spend is the best card, right? Mm-hmm. If you're I'm trying to maximize points, but I live in Atlanta and I only want to fly Delta, and I really care about Amex lounges because sometimes I fly into Dallas and I want to be able to go to the Amex lounge.
Now it's a little bit of a tougher conversation because like, you might be like, I only want to fly one airline. That airline has a hub where I live. I really want to get an upgrade. And the only way to get upgrades is to get status. I fly, like if you're trying to maximize hotels or airlines, it's a little bit different. If you're trying to maximize cash back, there's only one answer. And that answer is a Bank of America card that offers you 2.62% cash back on all spend. Doesn't matter what category it is. It doesn't matter if you're spending it on Facebook ads, remote.com. It doesn't matter if you're spending it on, Turo or airline flights. You get 2.62% cash back with this Bank of America card.
Wow. And no limit?
And no limit. And this card is, there's only one hiccup to this card, which is you need to keep at least $100,000 in a Bank of America account at any given time. And that's the only limit. It's the bank. I think it's called like the Bank of America Unlimited Cash Rewards Card. But if you keep $100,000 in your bank account, you get you only get like 2% or something like that, or 1.75 or something like that. But you get a bonus if you've got $100,000 sitting in a Bank of America account. Got it. And then they start giving you 2.62% cash back.
Wow.
And that's an unlimited amount of cash back. That's an unlimited amount.
Is that what you use?
That's what I use. That's what I use in some of my businesses, but not all of them.
Got it.
And so yeah, you get 2.62% cash back. And like really, they say you need to keep $100,000 in your account in order to get this 75% bonus, right? Like in order to get the 2.62. The reality is once you get $100,000 in your account and start getting the bonus, if you dip below the 100,000, they really won't take it away very quickly.
The 2.62.
Exactly.
Got
so
it.
You could have $100,000 and say, look, I have it. And they say, okay, they tag you basically. And they're like, okay, Nik has $100,000 in his account. Start giving him 2.62. And then if your balance drops from 100 to 50 for 3 months, they're not going to take it away that quickly.
Interesting.
Like you'll still be getting the 2.62 at that time.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite.
That just deposits right into your account, or it's used to pay off the card?
You can use it for either. You can use it for anything you want.
Oh, wow.
You can use it. You can deposit it into your bank account, or you can use it to pay off other expenses from your card.
Interesting.
And that's a great question, and moves me on to like the second point that I wanted to talk about with respect to credit card rewards, which is, let's say you're earning cash back. There's a lot of like questions as to whether or not that cash back is tax-free or not tax-free. And the answer is supposed to be, it is let's say you're buying a Facebook ad and you're getting 2% cash back, right? So you spend $100, your actual expense is $98. And so the reality is you're supposed to expense the $98 and not the $100, and that 2% cash back is tax-free. Most people are expensing the $100 that they spent on Facebook, not that $98, and they're keeping that 2% tax-free, and they don't pay taxes on it.
Got it. But
so basically, they're getting the cash back tax-free.
Got it.
And whether that's legal or not, I've got no opinion. And
is that legal?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Bank of America doesn't issue you a W-2. They're not right. Like, hey, Nik, we gave you $100,000 in cash back last year. Here it is. You've got to report it to the U.S. government, and you've got to pay taxes on it. They don't do that. So you can get all the cash back technically tax-free. And whether, I think you're supposed to report it or whether you're not supposed to report it, I'd be surprised. Before the Wayfair decision, let's say you bought something from, Hint, and it was delivered to my home in Florida. I was technically supposed to pay sales tax. I was supposed to go to the state of Florida and say, hey, I bought something online. You didn't collect sales tax. Here's the sales tax that I was supposed to pay for this purchase of a case of Hint. Nobody did that, right? You never bought anything online and then went to the state government at the end of the year and said, hey, I didn't pay this sales tax. Here it is. You're just like, fuck it. That's now I'm not going to pay that.
Right.
Generally, I think that's what's happening with cash rewards. Nobody's paying, income taxes on cash rewards.
Right.
So the 2.62% cash back that you're getting is kind of like 4% cash back if you're in a high tax bracket.
I see.
Because you get it tax free.
Right.
Like let's say you earned, I paid you $100,000 to do a bunch of work. You'd have to pay taxes on it. You'd end up with $50,000. This 2.62%, you're getting tax free. So like pre-tax, it's almost like getting 4% cash back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So that's why it's an amazing card. It's 2.62% cash back. The other thing you asked is like, what can you do with that? Can you just pay off business expenses or can you get cash out? What you don't want to do is pay off business expenses. You want to take the cash out because if you pay off business expenses, you might not realize that those are expenses then. You might say, okay, let's say you get $10,000 in cash back every month. You might say, I take this $10,000 and I paid off Facebook ads with it. So I didn't spend, let's say my Facebook ad budget is $25,000 a month. I spent $10,000 in cash back to pay that off. Now I only had $15,000 in expenses. So you're not going to write off you're not going to count as an expense $25,000. You might only count $15,000. So instead, take that cash out and still expense that $25,000 from a tax perspective.
Got it. Because it's tax free. Put it aside.
Because it's tax free, and like you want all of your expenses counted against your income.
Right.
Sharma Brands earned $100,000 this month. You don't want to be like, oh, you know what? I got $50,000 in cash back. So actually I applied it to all these expenses and now I made $150,000.
Right.
Government's going to say, wonderful. Thank you. Give us the cut of that $50,000.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you take the cash out and just put it in your personal account or whatever you want to do with it, it sits there tax free and it's your money.
Right.
So it's really powerful. I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, that's great. What are the other things people should do with their money, or like other little finance tricks to maximize savings, or maximizing every point?
Well, I think I'd say for this card in particular, it's great because it gives you the most cash back out of any card in the world. Capital One has a 2% cash back. I think Amex, like a bunch of cards, have a 1.5% cash back. Very few go north of 2%. This is the only card going north of 2.5% that I'm aware of. And all it takes is $100,000 in a bank account for a short period of time for you to get tagged. So you get the platinum rewards and you get that cash back. So I guess the thing that you should be doing is putting every single expense on that card. Like, don't be silly and be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to pay for something via cash or wire transfer.
Right.
When you can expense it. It can get really complicated. Like, it's a pretty deep rabbit hole you can go down. And so like one of the things you might do is you might say, I have to pay for boxes.
Right.
The boxes cost me $10,000. I can wire the guy and it costs me $10,000 to wire the guy. Or what I can do is I can pay via credit card, but he charges me a 3% fee. Now there's a lot of math to do because you could say, okay, so now I have to pay him $10,300 because I got to pay that 3% fee. Well, if I pay via wire, it's $10,000. If I pay via credit card, it's $10,300. But I pay via credit card and I get 2.62% cash back, right? So I paid $10,300 and I got 2.62% cash back, which is $270, let's say. Okay, like I got $270 back. Well, I paid a $300 fee and I only got $70 cash back. So that's actually not good, right? I lost that $30.
Right.
But the difference is here, that $270 comes back to you tax-free.
Right. And
you get an additional $300 tax deduction because you paid an additional $300 fee.
Right.
So you get this $270 tax-free and you get an extra $300 deduction over here.
Right.
So that $300 deduction, depending on your tax bracket, might be like, well, now I would have paid 40%, 50% income tax on that because you live in New York or California or something like that. So that $300 is actually $150 in income, and I got $270 here tax-free.
Right.
And so it can get very complicated, so much so that you might start saying, I'm going to start paying for things. I'm going to start paying a 3% fee with my credit card because economically it works out better for me because based on the tax bracket I'm in and based on the state that I live in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's bananas that it could be that way, but it is that way. Going back to that Amex Gold, which you were talking about, so I'm going to move off of cash back and move to credit card points. Amex Gold, like if you look at e-commerce fuel, everyone loves Amex Gold because you can get 4 points for every dollar you spend on Facebook ads, up to $150,000 a year.
Right.
So let's say you spend, $150,000 a year on Facebook ads, you get 600,000 points. 600,000 points is a lot. That's a lot of points for $150,000 in spend. But once you get to 150,000, they say you only get 1 point. You don't get to 4 any longer. So a lot of people will have 2, 3, or 4 Amex Golds. One in my name, one in your name, one in your wife's name, one in your mother's name, one in your sister's name. Everyone's got an Amex Gold. You're sort of like after, let's say you're spending $600,000 a year in Facebook ads. You get one in your name, one in your sister's name, one in your dad's name, one in your mom's name. After you spend $150,000, you stop using yours and you use your mom's. After the next $150,000, you stop using it, you use something else.
Yeah, I've done this before.
You've done that? With who? With which card?
With the gold.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're maximizing points on the gold.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But What's the value of those points?
It really depends. Like if you're very bad, it's 1 penny. So you're sort of getting 4% back anyway.
Okay.
Because it's 1 penny.
Right.
If you're really good at it, you could find 1 penny is the worst because Amex will pay you a penny for a point.
Right.
But there are instances where you're like, you know what? I transferred these Amex points to Delta. And then on Delta, I flew first class for 60,000 points. That flight was going to cost me, $8,000. Now my points are worth 10 cents each.
Right.
So it really is hard to that's why I like cash back because it's simple. Whoever pays you the most cash back wins.
Right.
With credit cards, with credit card points, it's a little bit different because you're like, okay, well, Chase transferred to this guy and I fly to London every week. So I want to be able to fly first class to London every week. And so maybe I want to be able to buy British Airways. Oh, I'm based in Minneapolis, so it has to be Delta. There's a lot of nuances when it comes to credit cards if you're trying to maximize hotel or airlines.
Yep.
Cashback 2.62 wins. If you're spending under $150,000 a year, Amex Gold wins. If you're spending under $300,000 a year, Amex Gold wins because you can just get 2 cards. If you're spending $5 million a year, Amex Gold doesn't win anymore because you can't get 40 Amex Golds. It's too painful. So in any case, that I really wanted to talk about the two extremes. If you're under $300,000 in ad spend a year, get Amex Gold.
Yep.
If you're, north of $5 million in ad spend a year, probably get the cash back because it's worth so much money. But there's a lot of nuances in the middle, which will probably take too much time to go over here. But under 300,000, Amex Gold. If you're trying to maximize cash back, Bank of America 2.62.
Yeah. High Beam also has a card that does 2% with no limit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Bank of America.
Yeah, 2.6 is just better.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you got to pay it off often.
Got it.
It's not like they're going to be like, hey, your credit limit is $2 million. They're going to be like, your credit limit is $75,000. So every morning you're going to have to log in and pay off your Bank of America card.
Yeah.
Okay,
Damn.
let's switch out of credit cards and into Klaviyo. Klaviyo IPO'd. And it IPO'd the same week that Instacart IPO'd.
Yeah. Which Instacart's not doing so hot.
Amazingly, both of them were founded the exact same year, 2012.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So we're going to go through some comparisons.
Okay.
But before we start, let me talk to you about Klaviyo revenue. 2021, $290 million. 2022, $472 million. Big increase. $585 million in the last 12 months, ending June 30th. I think they're on pace. This is a guess because they didn't project, but I think they're on pace to do about $700 million in revenue this year.
Okay.
Incredibly, incredible gross margins, as you can imagine, because it's a software business. 205 million gross profit in 2021 on 290 million in revenue, 344 in 2022 on 472 million in revenue, 440 on 585 so far this year, 75% gross margins.
And I think this is the first year they've turned a profit.
I think this is the first quarter they've turned a profit so far. This year, I'm not sure if they're expecting a profit, but it'll be close, certainly. Okay, so a few things to mention. They have a net revenue retention of 120%. Are you familiar with the term net revenue retention?
No, can you explain that?
Yeah, it basically means let's say 100 businesses started with Klaviyo in January 2020. Of those 100 businesses, 3 are no longer in business and churned.
Okay.
But 97 are still in business. Are they still paying Klaviyo the same amount that they paid in January? Or have they grown such that actually your revenue every month grows based on your old cohort? Because when Native started in 2015, we were probably paying Klaviyo $80 a month.
Right.
By the time I left in 2020, we were probably paying $15,000 a month.
Right.
$20,000 a month. Some insane number to Klaviyo.
Yeah.
So they're like, look at this. One customer actually grew a lot, and it made up for all the people that they lost and anybody who shrunk. So they're saying that on average, their net revenue retention is 120%. People will grow every year, not shrink. And their cohorts get bigger, not smaller.
Right. So the 120% is one cohort.
Yeah.
They'll say, let's say June 2022.
Correct.
That cohort will grow 120%. Is it over the course of a year?
Yeah, a year later.
Okay.
So let's say, I think this is how they define it. I'm not entirely sure, but I think this is how they define it. Let's say that cohort spent $100 in June 2022. This year, those same businesses will spend $120.
Yeah, interesting. I remember doing math and seeing that I think only around 1% of their customers pay them more than $50,000 a year. So that 120% math makes sense because it's not that much greater a year later, but I'd imagine that 1% client that's in there is the one that's really ballooning that cohort.
Yeah, probably. They say they have 1,458 customers generating over $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
Which is
you were one of them.
Yeah, I was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
No question. For comparison on net revenue retention, Snowflake is 158%, Twilio is 155%, PagerDuty is 140%, AppDynamics is 123%. So pretty close to everybody else, a little bit smaller, frankly. Twilio is a little bit higher, Snowflake's a little bit higher, PagerDuty, all a little bit higher, but like in that same ballpark.
Yeah. I wonder if that would change if they were off Shopify merchants as well.
Yeah. Okay. Great question. What percentage of their revenue do you think is derived from Shopify merchants?
If I had to guess, I would say probably 90.
Yeah. 77.5%.
Wow.
So 23% or 22.5% derived from WooCommerce, BigCommerce, anybody else. And only 10% of their Shopify revenue comes from the Shopify app ecosystem. The other 67.5% of their revenue that comes from Shopify goes directly to Klaviyo, not through the Shopify app.
Oh, interesting.
They also have a contract with Shopify that ends in 2029. So right now there's a little bit of a rev share. Their details are very unclear, but there is a little bit of a rev share with Shopify and Klaviyo.
Yeah, I'm an investor in a company where they one of their current challenges is that they owe Shopify a bounty every time somebody signs up. So right now they pay the standard rate, which is 15% of top line revenue of their top line revenue to Shopify, basically as a fee. Whereas a company like another Shopify app that we're both in, they only pay a $20 bounty per install versus a percentage of top line revenue.
You're an investor in the company that pays a percentage of top line revenue?
Yeah, they're just at the whatever the standard rate is. They haven't gotten their
the other guy's at a
rate.
bounty. Okay.
The other guy pays a $20 bounty.
Plus $15 or
no?
Or plus 15%, just $20.
Just a $20 bounty.
See, this is the one part that makes me not love Shopify, which is, Klaviyo is paying. There's a rev share deal between you and Klaviyo that ends in 2029. I know it for a fact because somebody said it on a document where if they lied, they're going to go to jail. Yeah. So I'm not, and nobody lied on this document.
Right.
You're telling me that when Shopify is showing you the difference between Klaviyo and SendLane, they don't care? When they're showing you the difference between Gorgeous and
But I think SendLane also has that agreement. Like, I think all the apps have, but what they don't call out is the difference in the fee that they get from one company versus another.
These guys also have a unique contract with Shopify.
Does it say what their fees are?
It didn't say. I didn't understand their fees, or I didn't get to that at least. But they have a contract with Shopify that ends in 2029.
Interesting.
And part of that contract also included Shopify investing $100 million into the business. Shopify has a vested stake in Klaviyo succeeding in the ecosystem.
Sean from Ridge called the Klaviyo stock just a proxy to buying Shopify stock.
I think that may be true, but I think it won't be true 3 years from now, and we'll get into why.
Okay.
But let's talk a little bit more about. Here's one other thing that let's go through. So we talked about gross profit, we talked about revenue, we talked about gross profit. Let me talk about expenses really quickly. So they had $213 million in marketing expense in 2022. That includes $26 million to Shopify in terms of warrants to buy their stock. $104 million in R&D, $81 million in G&A, general and administrative expenses. I was surprised. I didn't realize that SaaS businesses had R&D budgets. I thought they just would be under general and administrative, but they're like, no, this is a separate R&D budget. I think to develop new products like Klaviyo Reviews and there's something called Klaviyo for Wellness. I'm not sure if you've seen that yet.
No, what is that?
Basically, so this is why I don't think that buying Klaviyo is a proxy for buying Shopify. Klaviyo's the future of our business will be expanding into other categories outside of e-commerce. And the first foray into that, I think, is Klaviyo for Wellness. So it's for like fitness studios. You went to Rumble today.
Interesting.
You didn't go last week. So they want to be able to email you saying, hey, you came in today. Think about the triggers that are in Klaviyo. Purchased within the last 180 days, but not in the last 20 days. Went to a class in the last 180 days, but not in the last 30 days. Hey, Nik, you fat fuck, get into Rumble. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, Moiz, you lazy asshole, get the fuck out into berries and work out for once. So they're trying to create those triggers for fitness studios and wellness studios and beauties and
that makes sense. I'd imagine they go there, then they go to restaurants, then they go to law firms. Then I could totally see that.
And so then it's like 5 years from now. Let's say that I think it won't be buying Shopify, just buying Shopify. I think it'll be buying a more unique business.
Interesting. I wonder too if the R&D portion is, because there are aren't there tax write-offs for research and development? So it could be a huge way to just
funnel money into tax.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, I didn't think of that. Okay, that's really smart. Good point. I'm not sure if that's the reason why, but that could be it.
Yeah.
Nik, I love the High Beam credit card. It offers 1.5% cash back, which is pretty good. But more importantly than that, it's got limits up to $1 million and it gives you up to 45-day payment terms. It's so important, especially going into Q4 when everyone's thinking about maximizing inventory. They've got to worry about paying for Facebook ads for the next month when CPMs are going to go up. And they certainly don't want on Black Friday for their Amex credit card to hit its limit so that they can't spend any more money.
Yeah, the absolute worst thing I remember from 3 years ago, was trying to juggle credit cards on Black Friday because you hit your limits on the other cards. And luckily with High Beam, you've got 45-day payment terms, $1 million limits, and you get cash back on every dollar you spend.
So go to highbeam.co/limited supply to learn more.
Okay, the other thing they talk about is CAC payback period. How much do they have to spend in how long does it take for us to earn back the marketing expenses it took to purchase to get you as a customer? Mm-hmm. Any guess on how long their CAC payback is?
Is it based on months?
Yeah.
6 months?
14 months.
Wow, that long?
Which is a little surprising to me.
Does it share their LTV?
It didn't share their LTV.
Oh, interesting.
I think the really hard part for me is not understanding what their CAC looks like. Is it primarily marketing expenses or are they doing commission affiliate revenue all over the place with agencies?
I mean, they definitely do that. They definitely do general sponsorships. They definitely do ads. I would imagine too, the events they put on are all under that budget.
Yeah. That's a good point. I really wish that if you logged in, it would say that, hey, we're paying a commission to somebody else on your account.
Yeah.
One of the things that when native switched to, from WooCommerce to Shopify, I think our agency took a portion. It may still be getting a portion of the revenue that we're generating from that subscription.
Yeah.
stuff.
Shopify just pays them on the back end.
And that is so fucked up because not for Shopify, but for subscriptions. We switched to Recharge, and I think Recharge is paying that agency. It was called. It was a terrible experience working with them. I think Recharge is paying that agency for us doing something we were going to do already, which is move to Recharge. But nobody, it was unclear. Nobody was like, "Hey, Moiz, we're getting a kickback from Recharge."
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, Moiz, we're gonna get that. We were already on Klaviyo with WooCommerce as well, so I don't think they got a kick. But I wish it was more clear. I want to be able to log into a Klaviyo account and say we're paying an affiliate commission to Moiz Ali's agency, just so you know that they're getting something in this.
Yeah.
Those affiliates in this, the affiliate relationships in this part of the world are really a black box to me.
Fully agreed.
So anyway, a lot of this is agency fees. I'm sure they're marketing costs.
Yeah.
How much it is, I don't know. They didn't really break it down, but $213 million in marketing costs.
Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah, not nothing. Okay, here's a couple other things that I thought were interesting. Actually, let's skip these other. Let me tell you these other things and then get to the most interesting part of this. Okay. So they said as of June 30th, 2023, we've assembled 7 billion consumer profiles across our customer base in the last 12 months. We processed over 700 billion events, such as opening an email, browsing a website, or placing an order. 700 billion.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy. Okay. How much capital do you think Klaviyo has raised in the life of its business?
I'm I feel like it's a lot. 100 million?
No, it's more than that.
200?
$454 million. Because
Wow.
think about 100, like Shopify invested $100 million.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So they raised $454 million, which is actually nothing. And they still have most of it on their balance sheet.
Wow.
They have no debt. They've never raised $1 in debt. So there's a lot of money in this business. Amazingly, Shopify bought $3 million in shares at $33.87 a share, which is more than what Klaviyo trades at today.
Right.
So they actually overpaid for Klaviyo stock a year ago. But in any case, okay, let's get to the ownership. So the reason I think this is the most interesting part is because I tweeted this when Klaviyo IPO'd. I was like, this is a huge win for the e-commerce industry. Klaviyo is an institution. It's been around. It feels like the backbone, one of the backbones of e-commerce alongside Shopify.
Yeah.
It developed segmentation in a way that MailChimp and nobody else had back in 2012, 2013, 2014. Maybe it's commoditized now. I haven't used SendLane ever, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I haven't used MailChimp in a really long time. But when Klaviyo was doing what it was doing in 2015, and I was running native, it was the only person doing anything that special.
Did these docs mention how much they pay Twilio for SendGrid?
They didn't mention that. And I'm not sure they're using Twilio. They could
really?
be. I'm not positive.
I think they use SendGrid,
Okay, gotcha.
which was taken private by Twilio.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I didn't know. It could be possible. I know. I'm almost certain PostScript uses Twilio.
Yeah.
I don't know if Klaviyo does.
Got it.
But here's the interesting part: the ownership structure of the business. Shopify owns 12%. Summit Partners, which is a big VC private equity fund based out of Boston, owns 21%.
Wow.
The CEO, AB, guess how much he owns?
I can't tell if it's either really good or really bad.
Yeah,
It's either
really
like
good.
2%.
40%.
Okay. What? 40%?
Yeah.
Damn,
His
good
stake
for
is worth more than
him.
$3 billion.
Yeah.
Because he ran this business super capital efficient, was really smart about raising money, maintains
Wow.
control of the
I
business.
feel like the average for an IPO is like what, 10%?
Yeah.
Maybe less?
Yeah, in fact, that's what's so special about this. And I tweeted that when we IPO'd. I was like, what's one of the Klaviyo's a win for the e-commerce industry. Shows that businesses are still backable in e-commerce.
Yeah.
Even though this is SaaS, I granted this is SaaS. Shows that you can still have huge ownership stakes, and shows that everyone can make a fortune. Not millions of dollars, but billions of dollars in this business. And I thought that was really, really amazing.
That is
So
awesome.
I think that's awesome for the guy is a genius, worked really hard. I met him a few times. He's fantastic. I'm really happy for him and proud of Klaviyo and love what's happened in the e-commerce industry as a result
Same.
of him IPOing. Okay, I have a few more fun facts about it,
awesome.
and then we'll move on. One is, Klaviyo now offers SMS.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of Klaviyo customers do you think use SMS? And then I'll stop quizzing you.
15, 10?
15% of customers use SMS.
Wow.
Is that a lot or not a lot?
I feel like, one thing I'm not clear on is how many of Klaviyo's customers, what percentage of Klaviyo customers are, a Shopify store that does over maybe $500,000 a year in revenue,
Yeah.
which could then say either it's really big or it's really small. But I feel like they were very late to SMS. They just launched SMS recently.
Yeah. They were late to SMS. I guess 15% seems small. I guess, yeah, you're saying, hey, look, a lot of people have moved on. A lot of people are working with PostScript, which you and I are investors in.
Yeah.
A lot of people are working with, I don't know if Yapo offers it or not.
I don't know.
Or Attentive or somebody.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just working with somebody else, so they're just too late to the game.
Right.
That's a great point. Yeah, I wonder what percentage of e-commerce stores just don't use SMS yet.
I think a good amount.
Yeah, I think a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
And I think it's way underutilized. It's too good of a platform to not it's too strong of a platform. Once you start using it, you're like, oh my God, this is what email was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Massive open rate, not virtually 100% open rates, 10%, 15% click-through rates.
Yep.
Insane amounts of revenue can be derived from SMSs. You can't abuse it as much as you can email, obviously, or
Right.
you can't use it. Maybe I shouldn't say abuse. You can't use it as much as you can emails, but it's incredibly powerful and not enough people are using SMS.
Yeah.
And that really surprises me. I thought it was 15% was small. And I wonder if it's just a lot of people are using something else or a lot of people are not using SMS at all.
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is also interesting their product expansions, like SMS being one. Reviews is, I think, another one that they launched.
Yep.
SendLane also has reviews.
Yeah.
It feels like actually there's like these the e-commerce companies are basically just building out sideways. Like I think Yotpo has subscriptions now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Recharge will come out with like 2 or 3 kind of sideways products.
Yeah.
Klaviyo's doing reviews.
Yeah.
Like they're just trying to basically get the more of the single client they have.
In fact, for Klaviyo, it's explicit in their document, in their S1. They say it's land and expand.
Yeah.
Get you with email, expand to anything else we can get you for, so that we can move forward.
Yeah.
I was looking at SendLane when I was trying to do research for this, and I was like, it is so hard to understand SendLane's like pricing model. They're like, how many emails do you send a month? Like, first, it seems like they're not going after new businesses. Like, I looked at pricing, and they're like, how many emails do you select?
Yeah, it starts at 50,000.
Yeah. What if I'm a brand new business? Like, where are we at? And like, the other thing is, it's not very easy to know how many emails you're sending out, even inside Klaviyo. And like, so you're going to sign me up for an annual plan. Like, what I like about Klaviyo is that it's all like month to month contracts.
Yeah.
I've never used SendLane and I have nothing. I don't know anything about once you start using them, how it is. And Ron from Obvi loves it.
Right.
And so I could be completely wrong, but I would say that like, you're asking me how many emails I send and then I'm going to sign up to an annual plan. Like, you know how long an annual plan is going to be for a business? Like new e-commerce businesses are growing 10x a month over month if you're like 3 or 4 months old. So the number of emails I signed up for 3 months ago could be drastically different than what I need today. So I don't love that.
I think you can actually do monthly. The UX is just bad on this site.
Yeah. You just have to scroll down and then there's monthly. I just wasn't a big fan. I wish the pricing was a little bit more clear, I guess.
Yeah. One interesting thing about SendLane is they don't use SendGrid or anybody to send their emails. They built their own infrastructure.
Wow.
Which I thought was huge.
Yeah.
And I haven't done the pricing comparison, but a lot of people have said SendLane is much cheaper because they don't have to pay SendGrid or Twilio to send their emails.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, I wish there was like I wish you could just say this is the pricing I pay on Klaviyo, and SendLane would be like, we're going to give you a
Here's our best
discount.
price.
Yeah. No matter what it is, it's 30% off. So get used to it.
Yeah.
Like that would make it super easy for me.
That would be sick.
Okay, so anyway, I want to talk about a little bit about Klaviyo and Instacart. And then I want to talk a little bit about what Klaviyo means for the e-commerce industry.
Okay.
So Instacart, started the same year, 2012, 11 years later, IPO'd within the same week that Klaviyo IPO'd. Its valuation, its stock is down a little bit. It's trading at $27 a share, $7.5 billion valuation. Klaviyo trades at an $8.5 billion valuation. So this is what I was really interested in because I was like, what wins here? A marketplace that requires a lot of people or SaaS for emails for e-commerce?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how do I judge what wins here? Is it just valuation? And I was like, no, valuation's too easy. I was like, let me think about ownership percentage of the founder and CEO because that is going to tell me how capital efficient this business was.
Right.
And so I mentioned that the Klaviyo CEO owns 39% of his business. The Instacart founder, he just stepped down as CEO, owns 10% of his business. Don't get me wrong, super wealthy, super successful. We're talking about virtually a billionaire, probably a billionaire with the secondary that he's raised, but far less capital efficient than Klaviyo.
Right.
Which you'd imagine you'd have to be because you've got to hire a bunch of people to deliver stuff all over the place.
Yeah, and tons of advertising probably.
Yeah, and tons of advertising, yeah. What do you think the Klaviyo, you and I have invested in a few Shopify SaaS businesses. We invested in Postscript, Okendo. Did you invest in Gorgeous?
No.
Okay. You've invested a lot more than I have, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think the valuation means? Like $8.5 billion valuation. That is a massive valuation.
Huge.
But also $700 million in revenue this year.
Yeah.
I can't think of another Shopify app business that does $700 million other than Shopify itself, which has far more. That's only a little bit more than a 10, 12x multiple on revenue.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know what to think with valuations. Generally, the way I think of valuations, because the companies I'm investing to are much smaller, is just like, is this number good enough where they can hit a revenue target that justifies a higher valuation at the next raise. So if we invested in a company that was valued at 100 million, doing, let's say, 5 million in revenue, if they can't get to maybe 20 million in revenue, their next fundraise is going to be a down round. Or it might just stay flat, which is not good because everybody gets diluted much heavier. And so that's usually what I look at when I see valuation. Like, we almost invested in a company together that was valued at, 100 times revenue. And both of us were like, well, they'll never be able to raise again because no one's going to be that stupid the second time.
Yeah. I don't know how to think about this. I think that's the way I think about it as well, which is, are you going to be able to take this money and build a business where you can raise around the next 18 months, 2 years, 3 years down the line that'll be higher than this round, and your business will show a bunch of traction to prove that?
And I think it's easier in early stage because you're really going off attraction.
Yeah.
But at this stage with Klaviyo, $8.5 billion, which in theory means, like, if somebody were to take it private, they'd pay at least that. But, like, does this mean that over the next X amount of years, it'll fulfill its $8.5 billion valuation?
Well, I think that's the bet you make when you buy the stock. They will do that. But I think that, like, you're right. Like, late stage valuations are easy because there's so many people to compare it to, and the market is so efficient. There's so many really bright people who have done genuine analysis, not like me reading the 10K, but like spreadsheets forecasting who else is going to sign up, what's your churn going to look like. And there's, just smart money, hundreds of billions of dollars chasing this. So someone did the math and they're like, should we invest in Instacart or Klaviyo? Oh, the Klaviyo business looks a little bit better right now. I'm sure someone has done that math, and like that person has a PhD from MIT probably.
Right.
I think you're right that in the earlier stages, it's much harder, but I think that valuation, a lot of people raised in 2021 when you could raise 75x your ARR.
Yeah.
This business, which is probably after Shopify, the best business in e-commerce, is at a 10x, 12x ARR.
Right.
Where like that business that you were talking about, I think they were like, they did $1 million in ARR and were trying to get $80 million or had an $80 million valuation. To grow into that, they have to grow their top line 8x sort of to get into the same multiple as Klaviyo. They may be able to raise another round. I just don't know what happens because you're going to get so diluted. Like, let's say that business goes from 1 million to 700 million in revenue.
Right.
700x its top line. Bottom, like if its valuation goes up 10x.
Right. If
the top line 700x's, the valuation could go up 10x, maybe 12x.
Right.
And you'll be diluted along the way a fortune,
Yep.
And that's what gets me worried at early stage high valuations.
Yeah.
And I still see that. Like, there was another business on Saturday. I was talking to a guy that we both know, and he was thinking about investing in this business. And he's like, it's got a 25, 30x ARR. And I was just like, how does this business make sense a year and a half from now?
Yeah.
And that does have me a little bit like, I think Klaviyo is an amazing business because I think it generates a fortune in revenue. It definitely does. I think it has a strong moat, which is like the switching costs. Once you're on Klaviyo, you know how hard it is to switch your campaigns, audiences, your flows. You know how hard it is to switch a flow? It's fucking like so painful.
Yeah.
And so I don't know any other Shopify app businesses that are as strong as Klaviyo. And these guys traded 10 to 12x. And SendLane seems to be coming from them. People seem to love SendLane. I'm not sure how other smaller businesses can, how they're going to be able to grow into it. And, they've got plenty of time. They're small businesses. If you're doing 100,000 ARR, I don't expect you to raise it $1 million valuation. I expect you to raise it a 5 or 6. I just don't expect that at $2 million in ARR, you're like, great, I want a $200 million valuation.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is a lot of the early stage investing, a lot of the stuff we look at or get sent, a lot of it only makes sense if you're a $1 billion fund and you're looking for one winner.
Yes.
But if it's you and I and we're taking money from our savings account and transferring it into basically a bet on a business, then that eliminates 98% of those companies from being realistic to invest in.
That's right.
This only works if, you invest in company X and it, out of the 25 that you threw, $500K into, this one went and IPO'd, and that returns your fund many times over.
Yes, you're absolutely right about that. Okay, that's all I got. I guess I'll let me wrap up with one more comment about Klaviyo, which is AB now has he owns the majority of the business. Like he can control the business because he's got super majority voting shares or super voting shares. Like every vote he casts is 10 votes of anybody else.
Wow,
which is pretty common. Like Zuck has that. It's not that uncommon in tech businesses any longer. My prediction is that once he steps down, whenever that is, this business will go private to go to a private equity firm in 2 seconds.
Really?
Vista Equity Partners is going to come in and triple prices at Klaviyo, quadruple prices at Klaviyo. It's way.
And you think just because they'll have the hold on the customers, they won't leave anyways?
That's right. If you're if you're spending $20,000 a year on Klaviyo, you're probably doing tens of millions of dollars in revenue. And after Shopify, this is the most important software you use.
Yeah.
I think that you could go to 40K almost right away. You could go in and be like, we're doubling prices here.
Yeah, interesting.
Because there's just too much value here.
Wonder, that's really interesting. I guess that makes sense. Somebody should start an agency to migrate you away.
Yeah, that's right. I honestly think that a private equity firm will do it as soon as they might be able to do it today. Honestly, they might be able to do it today and say, hey, look, I'm willing to buy Klaviyo for $12 billion. And then start doubling and tripling prices. I think that's a reason.
And then go IPO again.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's exactly what you do.
Yeah.
Like ShipStation was owned by Stamps.com.
Yeah.
This private equity firm bought them. I don't know if you've used ShipStation anytime recently. We used to use them at Native. They used to be like, $10 a seat. Anybody like, $10 a seat. Now it's like $10 a seat, 8 cents a package, and 3 cents every time you have an API call.
Wow.
And you're like, an API call, you're charging, like, it's not like 3 cents, but it's like, it is, it is now every package you ship, you have to pay them more money.
Wow.
Every API call, you get they'll try and tier your money at the enterprise plan. It's not $10 a seat anymore. And like Klaviyo isn't that way. It is tiered. Like the more emails, the more SMSs you send, the more expensive it is. But it's not so expensive that a business that's spending $20,000 a year probably wouldn't spend $30,000 a year or $40,000 a year because they're so bought in.
Yeah,
they're
totally.
So deep in the ecosystem.
Right.
All of their people have been trained on this.
You can see the revenue being made.
That's right. Yeah, and it's like retention revenue, right? So it's like, okay, great. At Native, at least it was like, okay, we're sending out an email, new sense. All of the customers that come and buy again, we don't have to pay Facebook acquisition cost anymore. We've already acquired these customers at super profitable revenue. And so I think that I think a private equity firm could do this right away, actually.
Yeah, totally.
I think you could offer $12 billion and probably make money. But I think that'll probably happen once AB steps down because somebody will be like, there's too much money here. Assuming Klaviyo is what it is and he steps down.
Do you think they'll just triple prices on their own?
No founder wants to do that because they're like, this is, even at Native, people were like, why? Like now the prices are higher than when I was there. And I was like, look, this doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
And when you're the founder of a business, you can control pricing by being like, no.
Exactly. That's true.
And when you're when you're a publicly hired, like when you're the CEO that's a hired gun, you can't do that. Somebody's going to show you a spreadsheet and be like, look, bitch, we're going to make more fucking money. Your board is going to say,
also, you work for me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to make more money if you raise prices. If you don't want to raise prices, get the fuck out of here and I'll hire somebody else.
Yeah.
But when you're the founder, you just have so much credibility.
Yeah.
And you're just like, no. And people are like, why not? And you're like, I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
the end of it.
Don't ever talk to me again. If you have anything else to say, I'll fucking throw you out of this building.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between like a founder and like a hired gun. And I think that's what I don't think that'll happen right now.
Yeah. Good point.
Okay. Anyway, that's all I had for this episode. I think we got to get going because
that was an awesome episode.
Okay, great. I'm glad to hear that. The next episode, what are we chatting about?
We're going to be talking about basically all of the things to think about when you're launching a brand, and some underrated tech in the tech stack that people don't really talk about, but makes a huge difference.
Okay, super excited.
All right, see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next time to cut through the noise in CPG, retail, and e-commerce.
And if you enjoyed this episode, then why not share it with a friend? And be sure to subscribe on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts on.